In this video, we will use Kelly's covariation model, formed on the basis of Hyder's discovery, to explain how people attribute causes to others' action based on three factors: consistency, distinctiveness, and consensus. Firstly, consistency is whether a person behaves in a certain manner in any situation. Let's take a look at our flaky friend Wen-Qi, who exhibits the same behavior every time her friends ask her out. This is an example of high consistency in Wen-Qi's behavior. Whenever her friend asks her out, regardless of what occasion and which friend, she will always make up an excuse to not meet up. Hence, JP is more likely to think that Wen-Qi is just finding excuses for herself, which is an internal reason. Next, distinctiveness is whether a person behaves in a unique manner as compared to his usual nature, and here is an example of Kelly displaying high distinctiveness in her behavior. Kelly is a joyful person and laughs very easily at almost everything. It is in her nature to be a cheerful person, but it will be very distinct and obvious if one day she stops laughing at jokes that her friend tells her. Kelly's friends would sense that something may have happened to her to cause a difference in her usual behavior. This attribution shows a link of her actions to external reasons. Lastly, consensus is whether a person acts similarly to the people around him in a particular situation. For example, if a group of students are late, which shows high consensus, the professor will be more forgiving as he may assume that it could be because of external reasons. On the other hand, assuming that only one student is late while the rest are on time, the professor may assume that he is not disciplined due to low consensus. The professor thus attributed his behavior to internal reasons. Here we have an example of when the supervisor appraises an employee too leniently because of her judgment made of the employee based on consistency. As we can see from this case, Mrs. Tan thought that he had been performing well consistently, and since there is a high level of consistency over time, she chose to believe that Ali's performance was affected by external reasons, and thus she became more lenient in her appraisal towards Ali. But for another case, Mrs. Tan shows a different judgment of Kelly based on the consensus factor. Mrs. Tan assumed that just because everyone else was doing well, there was a high level of consensus and thus Kelly was also expected to do well. Mrs. Tan will likely attribute her poor performance to internal problems with Kelly, such as her laziness, making her more harsh in her appraisal for Kelly.